everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog Podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we are discussing Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is a 2021 American superhero film based on Marvel's comics featuring the Shang-Chi character. Produced by Marvel Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, it is the 25th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film was directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, and from a screenplay he wrote with Dave Callahan and Andrew Lanham. It stars Simeon Liu as Shang-Chi alongside Awkwafina, Meng'er Zhang, Fala Chilin, Florian Montalou, and Benedict Wong, Michelle Yeoh, and Ben Kingsley alongside Tony Leung. Once again, sorry if I don't get those names all correct. That was kind of falling downhill for me when trying to pronounce all those. So just bear with me. Again, no disrespect to the actors. I'm just trying to, pronounce everything as all should be good. I don't know what that last line was. Just scratch that. Continuing on. In the film, Shang-Chi is forced to confront his past when his father, Wen Wu, played by Tony Leung, the leader of the Ten Rings organization, draws Shang-Chi and his sister, Xialing, into a search for a mythical village. So let's talk a little bit about the pros, the cons, the technicals, the behind the scenes, all the stuff we like to talk about before we get into the spoiler section. If you are new to the podcast, thank you for listening to the podcast either on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, got the Google Podcast, so many different ways to listen to the LuckyDog Podcast. Thank you for subscribing, thumbs upping, whatever you're doing to support the podcast. I see so many more people have subscribed in the last 30 days. I think we had like 40 something subscribers, and that's just amazing. I can't do this without you. I know that it means that you like what you're hearing. It means you know what you're going to get. You're going to get some craziness. You might get some good hot drops. You're going to get some good reviews and some fun along the way. So let's talk about a little bit of behind the scenes for Shang-Chi. I'm really unfamiliar with Destin Daniel Cretton, the director, but he's best well known for his films Short Term 12 in 2013, The Glass Castle 2017, Just Mercy, I think that was with Michael B. Jordan in 2019, and now he is in the Shang-Chi Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so, with saying all this, I'm a little bit in the dark about his actual work in films, but I gotta say, coming off of watching Eternals, now I know Shang-Chi came out technically before Eternals, but honestly, watching Eternals and then going into Shang-Chi, I was blown the fuck away. I gotta say, Shang-Chi brought what I was looking for in a newly developed world when it comes down to opening up an origin story character. I'm not going to say that this is a perfect movie by any means. I mean, it is 25 films into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They have we've seen a bajillion different ways to have fights. We've seen 20 different ways to have an origin story. So let's have one that makes it that much more interesting. Now, some people are going to say this is the Black Panther of Asian cinema, the introduction for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And to an extent, I'm not going to disagree. I think that that's kind of a fair assessment. It's taking a lot of the cultural icons and iconography that you would see of Asian cinema and bringing it to a Western viewpoint, I guess is what I would say, more a Western perspective, because this is still very much an American film in the way that it's presented. And I think that the ways that its tonal themes kind of run through it as well. Now, I will say from the iconography, there's so many things that I can't talk about till spoiler section, but that really capture the eye when it comes down to the historical values of having Asian cinema and iconography that is sprinkled in to the movie. Now, is that patronizing to an extent? It's like, hey, we're going to do all this so that we can capture the Asian or Chinese market. Not exactly, because you could say that they were kind of doing the same thing for Black Panther, trying to get the black family demographic or the Latin family demographic when it came down to something like Coco or something like that. I mean, it's all a matter of time till we get like a real Latin superhero that has this vibe in it as well. I'm a little bit more mixed on it, because I kind of fit into two different ponds. Like I, was adopted at a very young age, so I feel way more Americanized. But it does feel like I want to see myself represented on screen as well. So it's like I don't want to exactly see a full Latin superhero character straight up representing South America and everything, but it would be nice to see that to an extent that would be somewhat Americanized as well, because I think there's probably isn't, from demographic wise, I think it goes Caucasian, Black, Latin, Indian, or Chinese. I'm not exactly sure, but from size that is in the American movie markets. I'm just saying that's the largest markets generally go from that direction. So they're trying to tap into the Latin market as well. Totally see the business perspective side of Shang-Chi. And so kind of continuing on, let's talk about it. A film based on Shang-Chi entered development in 2001, but did not begin until earnest until December 2018, when Callahan was hired. Creighton joined in March 2019, with the project fast-tracked as Marvel's first film with an Asian lead. The film's title and primary cast were announced that July, revealing the film's connection to the Ten Rings organization, which previously appeared throughout the MCU with its leader Win Wu. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is the first Marvel film with an Asian director and predominantly Asian cast. Very similar to like how Black Panther was. Filming began Sydney in February 2020. And when I say Black Panther, I meant like the black demographic. Filming began in Sydney in February 2020, but was put on hold due to COVID-19 pandemic. I did notice that this movie didn't really feel like a COVID production, in my opinion. I think they did a good job of making it not feel like it had taken place in a world such as ours that has the pandemic going on. So production resumed in August before completing in October, with additional shooting occurring in San Francisco. I know that this made it a little bit more difficult to shoot in China, which I know they wanted to do. So I'm not sure if they actually got to do that or not. I'll see if I can find that out. I don't see that actually happening right now. It's probably was on location in most states. So what do we have? Shang-Chi. Oh, let me wipe my nose. Sorry. Gotta wipe my nose. Get some hands in. There we go. Sorry. Oh, goodness. It's getting cold out there, so I'm getting the sniffles and stuff like that. I know y'all didn't need to hear that, but you know what? That's what you sign up for. You get the goods. You get to know way too much about the stuff. All right. You can probably tell I had a little bit of coffee before this, so I'm a little bit hyped up. But we're gonna need it to get through crack through this egg. That is Shang-Chi. So, we talked about the director, screenplay, story by, based on, everybody all know that. We went through the cast. Cinematography, I thought the cinematography was still pretty good. I'm not too familiar with William Pope right off the top of my head. Let me say, he worked on The Matrix with the Wachowskis, and he did the Wachowskis Reloaded and Revolutions with them as well. Spider-Man 2, okay. He's done Spider-Man 3, okay. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, okay. This is not a guy I would have thought that this is the cinematographer for all of these. Damn, he did a lot. Yeah, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Men in Black 3, Edgar Wright's at The World's End, The Jungle Book with Favreau, Baby Driver. These are big hits. This guy's got a lot of like stuff under his belt. Baby Driver with Edgar Wright. I've heard the good things about The Kid Who Would Be King by Joe Cornish. Sorry, I'm just going through this. He's got a lot of hits under his belt. I think these are pretty big budget films. Alita Battle Angel, Robert Rodriguez, Charlie's Angels with Elizabeth Banks. I know that was kind of more or less a flop, but it still is a big budget, I would assume. Boys in the Band, didn't see that. Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Okay, we saw that. And now he's going to be the cinematographer for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantum Mania with Peyton Reed directing. That is quite an impressive resume by Bill Pope. My goodness. So let's continue on to what else we got. I wouldn't say there was anything that was that crazy about this cinematography that blew me away. I would say that it was well put together. It looked like a Marvel film. A lot of Marvel films kind of have this like mid contrast look, kind of steely glass, kind of oversheen about it. And I will say, going through this movie, there are a handful of scenes that the CGI just does not even look finished. I was flat out surprised how bad some of the scenes looked in contrast to other scenes. Just as a little bit of a prelude to what we're going into, how I felt about the movie. But overall, I was more or less entertained, not so much moved by it, but I thought that the stunt work, I believe there's a stunt coordinator on here. I think his name was if I can find the stunt coordinator's name and everything, I'll go through all that. But it was a very famous stunt coordinator on here that ended up passing away not too long ago. And I thought the stunts in this that were shot in this were amazing. I thought that the choreography and everything had kind of evoked a Jackie Chan-esque, almost Bruce Lee-esque kind of hyper-realized version in this MCU. And there's many scenes where our main character is kind of like fighting within on like on a bus, or he's fighting on what feel like practical sets that I feel like we haven't seen done in Marvel films in quite a while. And the way that we have the one take wide angle shots in some scenarios, that it's very visible to see. That's the best things about this movie, are the fact that you can see the fights. It's different types of fighting styles than we've ever seen on Marvel films before. I'm trying to find the what's it called? Let's see if I can't find this guy. Can I not do it? Oh, this is not. That is not. I think his name was Brad. Okay, so the supervising stunt coordinator, Brad Allen, I believe, is who I was thinking of. He's worked alongside. I think he was the guy that worked alongside Drunken Master 3. He was an action choreographer. Is that the guy I'm thinking of? Yeah, he is because he is passed away at 48, I think. Let me see. Okay, so Brad Allen began boxing. Sorry, this is a little diverge segment from Shang-Chi, but like I said, I wanted to go into kind of the nitty gritty of what the stunt coordinator and the behind the scenes of this movie are. So the stunt coordinator of this Shang-Chi movie, Brad Allen, began boxing, karate training around 10, studied wushu gymnastics from age 14, spending 2 years under the Beijing wushu team members Lai Chang-xing, Tai Lei Wing, compatriots of actor Jet Li. Okay, so that's who he worked with. Um, he was also trained in a number of other martial arts, including karate, aikido, hapkido, taekwondo, Wing Chun. We talked about that Wing Chun with Ip Man. We talked about all four of those movies. Um, Boxing, kickboxing. The dude was a freaking badass. Um, Yeah, and he later spent time at Shanghai Institute Sport and learning Mandarin. Made his first made his first film appearance in the unofficial sequel film Drunken Master 3. I swear that he worked with. Okay, so he did work with Jackie Chan. Okay, so later that year in '97, he heard Jackie Chan was filming Mr. Nice Guy in Melbourne and knew of the Australian crew. He was invited to demonstrate his martial arts style with for the action film director Cho Wing, and Allen made an appearance in the film, who was later signed for a role in Chan's next Hong Kong film, Who Am I? Okay, so that's kind of his connection to the cinema, and he also was working with Edgar Wright in 2010 on Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Okay, so that's how this is how his connection is to Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and the same that cinematographer. Also, same guys have worked on Chronicles of Riddick, Chan's stunt. Okay, so in addition to being a member of Jackie Chan's stunt team, Allen gained choreography, direction roles in major Hollywood films, including The Chronicles of Riddick, Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. Okay, so I ended up seeing that. I don't remember it being too crazy on those two, but I was pretty impressed about that by the action on this. So yeah, it was the action is definitely to go for the appreciation for of Brad Allen's contributions there. So let's hop into a little bit more of the pros and the cons of the movie before we get into the spoiler section. Um, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings premiered in Los Angeles on October 16, 2021, and was released in the United States on September 3rd as part of Phase 4 of the MCU. Some would say a bumpy Phase 4. I have seen just about all of the shows except for the Hawkeye show, including What If, and I gotta say, there's been some hits, there's been some misses. Some of it feels a little bit not as well paced. Some of it definitely feels like it was a little bit lower budget than others. Overall, Loki's been my favorite show. Um, but I think Shang-Chi would go up there with one of my favorite movies of Phase 4 thus far in comparison to, what was it, Eternals? Eternals felt mismatched and uh, just dull in the ways that I was not expecting. And I think a lot of it can be contributed to expectation, and so I tried to temper my expectation, but it's still I was just like, damn. Our expectations were low, but god dang. The film broke several Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. The film broke several box office records for the pandemic and has grossed 431.6 million worldwide, making it the eighth highest grossing film in 2021. It garnered positive reviews from critics, many of whom praised the choreography of the action sequences from Brad Allen, as we said, exploration of the representation of Asian culture, like I said, and the performances from the cast, particularly those of Lau and Leong. Um, and again, I believe I'm saying that correctly. A runtime of 132 minutes. Movies cannot be under 2 hours these days. That must be like a cinema law or something like that, my lord. Uh, so, anyways, music by Joel P. West. I liked the music. I thought it. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it felt reassuring as a new character. I didn't quite think the hip hop mix always worked in it because there was some times that it kind of tried to do the Black Panther mix of like this quote unquote Wakandan kind of African blend with hip hop in some ways, and I think what Lou Ludwig Garrison or whatever that guy's the composer's name is. Um, sorry, getting the Black Panther's composer's name wrong, but I thought his sound was very unique and fit for what we were watching. I didn't really think the hip hop quote unquote hip hopness of Shang-Chi was always necessary, in my opinion. I think that um, with saying that Shang-Chi needed to have its own sound, and generally it did have its own unique sound, with the exception of when it started to kind of blend in the little hip hopness when I didn't necessarily think it made sense to always have that. So, um, budget of 150 to 200 million. I remember when 150 to 200 million was like considered a lot to most movies. What was it? Justice League, I believe, was around 200 million. Um, one that always sticks in my head that I think they just utilize the hell out of their budget. Um, I think Lord of the Rings was around 100 to 150, the first one, and then Watchmen 2009. I think both of those movies look really good for how much money that was put into them at that time, which in consideration, I think 150 to 200 million, I guess, is going to be the new standard for most, big budget superhero movies. So before we hop into the spoiler section, once again, thank you for watching, listening, Look at L podcast. The pros and the cons of the movie, I think I've said it. The majority of the performances I thought work really well. The compelling parts of the movie really come from the dynamic of the two main leads of Leong and Lao, and it's because of those two having an emotional connection, I think makes this movie that much more unique to it. Let me think. Anything else? There is a third act kind of reveal that completely feels corporate based. Corporate said, "Oh, we need to put this right here, right there." And we're going to have a big apology, and we're going to have a gift shop we're going to walk through, and it's all going to be sponsored by yours truly, this random character that ends up popping up. So I'll talk about it in spoiler section, but I think that's when the movie kind of loses me just to a hair. It doesn't feel like that was always in the film, and it easily could be removed or shortened, but it's elongated and it really puts a dent in the movie in a way that's like, damn, if that was only a 5 to 10 minute segment and not a 30, or I don't know, if it wasn't a 20-minute segment, I would say I would want to go back and rewatch this movie. I think the biggest thing that's deterring me from rewatching it at this point is how dang long it is. It's I haven't had a lot of time to rewatch things just because of how much content is being released on a weekly basis. So just off this, I'm like, holy Santa Claus, whatever we can do to shorten it up and make it more concise. Not shorter is not always better, but this, the way they do it here, not like this. Please, not like this. So let's hop into spoiler section for Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Giving everybody time to loosen up, get a little drink, get a little smoke, get a little what you ever gotta do, get a little drink, get a little smoke, get a little accept. You shouldn't do that stuff because that's bad. Don't do that. Um, um, I was trying to do a little dance or something like that while everybody either gets the pause button because they don't want to listen to the spoiler section, or they want to get a little bit of popcorn because we about to hop in that spoiler section. We about to hop and pop in that spoiler section. We gonna rock and lock in the spoiler section. Now let's get it. Let's get it. Wheeze, baby. Wheeze. Wheeze. Wheezy. Okay. Okay, so y'all are like, is this guy ever gonna start the goddamn review? Get a little water. Here's the spoiler section. Around 1,000 years ago, Zhu Wenwu discovers the mystical 10 rings which grant immortality and godly powers. He establishes the 10 Rings organization, conquering kingdoms and toppling governments throughout history. In 1996, Wenwu searches for Ta Lo, a village said to harbor mythical beast. He travels through a magical forest to the village entrance, but is stopped by guardian Ying Li. The two fall in love, and when the Ta Lo villagers reject Wenwu, Li chooses to leave with him. They marry and have 2 children, Shang-Chi and Xiling. Wenwu abandons his organization and locks away the 10 rings. So I gotta say, the opening is freaking badass. All of the action. I was very skeptical about how the visuals of the rings were gonna look in comparison. I keep comparing this to Eternals, very much of how they're having to introduce new characters in the same way. Gotta dynamics, patriarchies, that type of thing, hierarchies, whatever the different, whatever. All the hierarchies. I think this one does it a lot better by focusing and showing us emotion, showing us story, showing us character building. And I realized that the action became a dance, and it was almost a courting for the 2 individuals at the beginning of Wenwu and Ying Li. And it was beautiful. And once again, sometimes the what's it called? Special effects didn't always look that great. But I will say the 2 really made it believable that these were in love. These 2 individuals were in love. So Wenwu abandons his organization and locks away the 10 rings. When Shang-Chi is 7 years old, Li is murdered by Wenwu's enemies, the Iron Gang. And when this goes down, we're showing this in flashback through Shang-Chi talking to Aquafina's character. And it was like, holy shit, is this really going to go down like this? And they went down like that. I was like, I literally thought we were going to get like a badass scene of his mother like kicking ass, but no, it's just like the mother is like all of a sudden standing there getting ready to take, she's getting ready to hit him with a Wing Chun or something like that. And it's just like are we going to see this lady take on like 20 gangsters? And it doesn't go down like that. It's not a pretty sight. It's, as a matter of fact, I don't even know if, I don't think we see anything. All we do is hear it. Um, Still really hard to even imagine. And of course, Shang-Chi's like, he's a child and stuff like this. And to an extent, his father is kind of blaming him in a way. It's like, what did you want him to do? Did you want him all to get taken? So, and he wasn't there. So I just like, this sucks. Um, so anyways, Wenwu sends, okay, so when his mother is, Lee is murdered by Wenwu's enemies, the Iron Gang. Wen Wu dons the 10 rings once again, massacres the Iron Gang, and this is all like in front of his son, like hit him over, ha, 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 like right in front of his son, and his son is just like, and I gotta say the camera is just like lingering like in the room, and I'm pretty sure it's like might be a one take, and you just see these guys getting fucked up left and right from the rings and the shit and the fuck and the psh and the psh. And I'm just like, God dang. I mean, they all deserve it, but right in front of his son. Yeah, didn't have to do his son like that. He makes Shang-Chi undergo brutal training in martial arts. Like, he's straight up abusing his son at this point. And has this guy looking like Snake Eyes trying to like beat the shit out of him, as he's like a samurai Snake Eyes beating the hell out of young Shang-Chi, trying to get him, training him up and just making him a badass. But does not allow Xiling to train with the others, so she teaches herself in secret. That's his sister. There is a big underlying message of like women being excluded in, I think that is a big part of, unfortunately, in Asian culture, how Asian women have been excluded, especially with the one child policy and stuff like that, where I think you can only have one child, and if it was a girl, most people would give the child away. Some really messed up stuff. So there has just always been somewhat of, quote unquote, more value, unfortunately, to men in a lot of the traditional stance. And I think that this movie is doing a good job for putting a better foot forward for that, and giving us a sympathetic view of what she would have to go through to, really go through this. I mean, not exactly that you'd be using 10 rings or anything like that, but you can relate to her in a way through her shoes. You can watch her, how she's having to deal with this in a way. And to another extent, I almost wish we would have got more of his sister. I think his sister is almost just as interesting as Sean is just as much as any character on here is. So yeah, his sister had to fight for it just as hard too. So I think this is giving a relatively good progressive message with that. So when his name's Shang. When Shang-Chi is 14, Wenwu sends him to assassinate the Iron Gang's leader. After completing his lesson, and he did. After completing his mission, a traumatized Shang-Chi runs away to San Francisco and adopts the name Sean, which nobody would ever guess. Let me see. In the present day, Shang-Chi works as a parking valet with his best friend Katie, who does not know anything about his past, who's played by Awkwafina. And they're just kind of goofing around doing their own thing, valets at like a hotel or something like that. They are attacked on a bus by the 10 Rings, who steals who steals a pendant that Lee gave to Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi flies out to meet and sorry, they just kind of skip by this, but this bus fight is amazing. The way that they try to just skim by it in the trailer and show it just as a regular bus fight. I mean, it is straight up like it's the type of like fighting where Jackie Chan would be like running around all the fucking windows and all up a wall and stuff like that, basically be like a real life Spider-Man. And then he would have to like maneuver around people and be like, oh, I'm sorry, oh, my bad, I'm sorry. He would always like apologize for everything like that. And this Sean character, very much Shang-Chi, very much is doing the same thing. He's kind of like having to interact around like fine women on the bus, like, oh, hey, mama, oh, like having to like, whoosh, like do all this crazy shit, and it's hilarious. Sorry. Had to respond to a little text, but let me see, what else do we got? So he's attacked by the 10 rings, and then all this good stuff, crazy action goodness is happening. Brad Allen really brings the fire. What else do we got? Okay, so after that, he decides he needs to fly out to his sister, and during this middle period of the time, we find out all of his backstory with talking to Aquafina and whatnot. She's kind of like the foil for us to kind of understand what's going on with Sean. So Shang-Chi flies out to meet his sister because he's fearing that the 10 rings will go after her matching pendant from Lee. Sorry. He reveals his past to Katie, who insists on helping him. And I gotta say that Aquafina is relatively toned down in this movie in comparison to a lot of her other movies. For some reason, she was always insistent on doing kind of like this like thick Brooklyn type yo-yo accent in a way, kind of like talking a little bit of ghetto, a little bit. I don't know what to say exactly. But yeah, I am glad she's not doing that right now, and I don't think she needs to do it. I don't really know why she was ever doing it. She was kind of doing it in what's it called, Crazy Rich Asians, and I'm just like stray away. So let me see. Okay, so he tells Aquafina about all this goodness. They find Xiling at the underground fight club in Mako, which she founded after escaping from Wenwu at a young age. The 10 rings attack the fight club, and Wenwu arrives to capture Shang-Chi, Katie, and Xiling and her pendant. And Wenwu is kind of an ass. I'm not going to lie, that this guy that plays his dad, Tony Liao, I think, or is it Leong? Leong, yeah, Leong. Dude is a badass, and I really feel for this character. He has so much. He can say so much with his eyes, and there's a lot of scenes of him just kind of being sad, and he doesn't really have to say much, but we just understand where he's coming from. It's like, holy shit. Let me see what else we got like this. Okay, so when he's attacking all of them, it's like, oh shit. So yeah, they find Xiling at an underground fight club in Macau, and then she is found, which she founded after escaping Wenwu at a young age. And of course, Xiling is a badass in her own right. We get a kind of like an underground. I mean, it is an underground fight club that she's running. And she's like the straight up mobster of it. She's like the kingpin of it. And she's just a badass whooping her brother's ass, unfortunately. But it's just a way that we can see how they're both matched, and how, I don't know, her ultimate like sacrifices she has had to do to get to this point, you know? Let me see what else we got. Okay, so the Ten Rings attack the Fight Club when Wenwu arrives to capture Shang-Chi and Katie, Xiling, and the Pendant. This is one of the coolest fight scenes. Again, we get like some of the silhouette fights with, I think it's Shang-Chi, and he's having to fight his old master that looks like Snake Eyes kind of in a samurai outfit. And then it goes into the scaffolding fights and everything like that. Again, the scaffoldings are like number one thing that what's his face? Jackie Chan like using. In a lot of his movies. When I think of scaffoldings, I think of like Rush Hour 3 is like Chris Tucker, what is it? Jackie Chan and scaffoldings. He's the missing third. Scaffoldings are the missing third character. Yeah, Jackie Chan, absolute badass. Bruce Lee, absolute badass. And now we got Tony Leung, and of course he's badass too. So we got a lot of Asian badasses representation on screen as well. So continuing on. I will say one part of this movie that I was not terribly crazy about was the American guy. The American white guy that was playing, I think he was an American white guy that was playing in the Ten Rings, and he had like this arm. I need to kind of go back and see who this guy was again. Razor Fist, I think. Florian Montano. Okay, so he's a German, Romanian heavyweight boxer. Okay, former heavyweight boxer, actor, model, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so don't hurt me for one thing. Second of all, I didn't think that he really fit in the Ten Rings. He always stuck out as like a character that didn't feel like he belonged in the world, but that was just me. I kind of wish they would have done a little bit more work to kind of make him feel why the hell's he got a razor fist, or what the hell's going on with that, you know? So he was one of my biggest complaints, unfortunately, but apparently he was a big ass dude. He could barely fit in the bus as well. When I was listening to the Directors Guild pod on Shang-Chi, they were talking about how big the fucking guy was. He could barely fit in the bus. that would be insane, getting an actor that you would have to like, watch out because he can't fit on the set. It's like, oh shit. And what are you going to do? You can't get a bigger set at that point because it's on a bus or whatever. So let me see. So yeah, they're trying to get all the pendants and stuff like that. I think they already have Shang-Chi's at that point. They are taken to the Ten Rings compound where Wenwu used the pendants to reveal a mystical map leading to Tai Lo. Wenwu explains that he has heard Lee calling to him and believes she is being held captive in Tai Lo behind a sealed gate, which is oddly specific, but it's like, okay. So he plans to destroy the village unless they release her. When his children and Katie object, he imprisons them. And I will say that whole scene, cool. Once again, some of it, special effects really work. I think there's like a frozen water coming in special effect at one point. Thought it looked really cool, but then other scenes with like trees in the background look completely fake. I don't know what the heck's going on. So he imprisons them. And this is exactly where the movie says it felt like they were shooting the movie and someone from Disney said, well, excuse me, where is where's the gift shop? Where's all the toys? And where's the forgiveness from Iron Man 3 of the Mandarin? It's like, okay, so they end up meeting, these three end up meeting Trevor Slattery, former actor who was in the Mandarin. Sorry, who was playing a version of the Mandarin that was hired by Guy Pearce in Iron Man 3. So you're like, okay, so what the fuck does that mean? It means that we are going to have about a 20-minute departure while he talks about some sort of like chicken winged ass looking thing. He's literally got this plushie that he's trying to tell everyone in the crowd that they need to buy, and they need to go home and buy one of these plushies. And he's also going on a tangent about how he's apologizing for being hired as an actor. He's like breaking the fourth wall, quote unquote, apologizing for being this Mandarin character, basically having a quote unquote non-Asian character play an Asian character. And it's like, what year is it? Why are we apologizing this right now? I'm just so like confused about what I guess that they were, this would, I don't know. I don't want to say they didn't do this type of apology at all in Black Panther or some sort of like, they did have a big colonization message over it, but I wouldn't say it was a big, call to action of we're sorry kind of thing. Like, we're sorry, that kind of thing. I was just like so surprised that they took the time. I heard that this scene was coming, and I heard that there was a quote unquote stop at the gift shop on the way out before the third act, but they were not fucking kidding. There was like 15 minutes of Ben Kingsley apologizing and chilling with this fucking plushy chicken winged ass looking thing for, like I said, a good 15 minutes. And he's just imprisoned with them, and it feels like we are imprisoned with them too. But somehow he knows how to get to Tai Lo, I believe. So, yeah. So the Ten Rings impersonated Ben Kingsley for impersonating Wen Wu, which is kind of just like, what the fuck? How long has he been down there? Oh, geez. Apparently, there was a cut scene where they had actually shown that going on or happening or something like that. I don't know. From Iron Man 3. And his yeah, Ben Kingsley was imprisoned by the Ten Rings for impersonating Wen Wu, and his Hun Dun, the faceless chicken ass being thing, companion Morris, who offers to guide them to Tai Lo. This is a big problem of the movie. This honestly might take it to a 7 out of 10, but it's just like, okay, we don't know how to get them to Tai Lo, so let's just bump them into this guy, and this is how we're going to do it. This is exactly what it felt like. Didn't feel like organic writing to me, to be honest. But the group escapes and goes to Tai Lo, which exists in a separate dimension with various Chinese mythological creatures. Like I said, like dragons and like these bat things and stuff like that. It's got iconography from Chinese lore and big lion things as well. I'm pretty sure those are from him. They meet Ying Nan, Li's sister, who explains the history of Ta Lo. Thousands of years ago, the village was attacked by the soul-consuming Dweller in Darkness and its minions, but was saved by a Chinese dragon called the Great Protector, who no one's seen up until now, but we're not going to talk about that. Who's helped seal the dark gate to the Dweller's world. According to Nan, the Dweller in Darkness has been influencing Wen Wu to believe Li is still alive so that he will open the gate. Fuck! So Shang-Chi, Ling, and Katie join the villagers in training, in combat, and preparing for Wen Wu's arrival using outfits and weapons crafted from dragon scales. Lego. We got a Game of Thrones style action scene we got to get to. Let's do it. And it feels like everyone, especially Disney, watched Game of Thrones and said, we can do big budget action. We just cannot show anybody having actual blood coming out of any orifices. I was just like, God dang. So, because I'm pretty sure they did something very similar in Mulan, but it just was not nearly as compelling. So anyways, Wenwu and the Ten Rings arrive and attack. Let me get a little water before we start. Wenwu overpowers Shang-Chi and forces him into a nearby lake. And I gotta say, the entire time, I had no idea Shang-Chi was going to have to fight the rings. I thought Shang-Chi was going to have the rings like 90% of the fucking movie. I was like, this dude's going to be like doing all this Wing Chun-ing it up and, hitting him with a Wing Chun to the left or a Judy Chop to the right. But honestly, he doesn't have any of the rings. He's having to fight the 10 rings like half the time. And the visualizations of the rings, I gotta say, are so sick. Like, I was like, all right, the rings, in my opinion, going into this movie, I'm like, all right, so they're just trying to sell us a lightsaber type thing, except nobody wants to wear rings. So how are they going to do it? But they have these like floating ass rings and like shim, 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 shim. I was like, God dang, I need to get some of those. I don't know how they're going to sell the 10 rings, but I might need to get about 5. So yeah, Shang-Chi forces him into a nearby lake, and it's a beautiful scene of Shang-Chi falling down in the lake and his father just like, being kind of upset, but he's like, I gotta get my wife and your mother. So that was on you. That was your fault. And he's kind of gaslighting his son like over half the time. He's got a very abusive father, physically and mentally. It was your fault that she died. You were 10 years old. You should have whooped ass. It's like, God dang. So, let me see. So yeah, he's forced into a nearby lake, Shang-Chi is, and then and forces him into a nearby lake, then attacks the gate with the rings. And he's hitting him with like shim, hit the shim, with the shim, with the shim. This allows some of the Dweller's minions to escape. And when these minions get out, they're like, and they're like trying to like attack like the Dwellers. And when they're attacking the 10 rings guys, they're like, ah, and they get like the samurai snake eyes looking guy. He's like taken out and he's like, and he's like soul sucked his right through his ass or something like that. Well, it's not through his ass, but it's from the ass up. So you gotta watch out. The soul suckers, they'll get your ass. So you gotta watch out. So anyways, the 10 rings basically combined forces to join with the Ta Lo villagers, I believe, because they're like, we don't know how to fucking fight these things. And, Michelle Yeoh's like, shim, 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 shim. We know how, to whoop some ass. And so the Dweller minions escape and the 10 rings join forces with the villagers to fight them. Shang-Chi is revived by the Great Protector. And the visualizations of the dragons are amazing. I want to go back and rewatch it on this new TV I got. I was like, holy shit, this is looking dope. So the Great Protector, which leaves the lake to battle the minions. And it's like this dragon just like, it's like going through the water, and fucking Shang-Chi's like, shim, shim, shim. I was like, God, this is crazy. I was like, all right, now we got dragons in the Marvel universe or whatever. Let's go. So Shang-Chi is revived by the Great Protector, which leaves the lake to battle for the minions. And so that thing is just like chomping at the minions. And so the only way to kill the minions are with like special spears or whatever. Wenwu and Shang-Chi fight once more, and Shang-Chi gains the upper hand, but chooses to spare Wenwu. And that's after I think he gains control of the rings at that point because his father almost like gives him. He's like, "You're looking a little bit low on the rings. Here's 5." And then it's like you're not expecting Shang-Chi if he's going to like control the rings or not, because it looks like they're coming to like attack him. He's like shim 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 shim. He's like matrixing the whole thing. He's like shimming all the rings, and then there's like this dust going all around him, and all you see is the what do you see? All you see is the dust kind of clouds around, and then you have the rings going around. It's like shim, shim, wow, wow, wham, wow. And it was really cool. And so, and so they fight one more. He gains the upper hand, takes his father down, chooses to spare Wenwu. The Dweller in Darkness escapes the weakened gate and attacks Shang-Chi. Wenwu saves Shang-Chi and bequeathing him the rings before being killed by the Dweller in Darkness. And so that's actually when he gives him the rings. And it was kind of like he like pushes his son out of the way so that the dragon takes him instead of his son. And I was like, no, it's the most interesting character. No, but yeah. So basically, he gets skirked. I think Tony Leung gets his life skirked from him. But he was also on a path of vengeance, and you cannot live on a path of vengeance in the Marvel universe. Apparently, Shang-Chi within reason. The Shang-Chi, the Great Protector, Xialing, and Katie managed to kill the Dweller in Darkness. And the whole time, Katie is like trying to like, I think she's like doing arrows and whoopsh, whoopsh. She's fucking Hawkeye in it the whole time. She's like whoopsh. And this one guy is always telling her what she can't do. He's like, no women on the battlefield. Everyone's dying, but no women on the battlefield. It was like, all right. And then eventually, like, women on the battlefield, women on the battlefield. It's like, there's a big fucking dragon out there. Women on the battlefield. Oh my gosh. And so eventually, there's actually a pretty intense part where I was like, the dragon ain't gonna make it. I was like, the Great Protector ain't being protected. And then eventually we have Aquafina with the kill shot, shim. And I gotta say, whatever her line was after that wasn't that memorable, but whatever. That's not her fault. Manages to the dragon and basically calls it a day. And we're all good after that. Afterward, Shang-Chi and Katie return to San Francisco, where they're summoned by the sorcerer Wong to Kumar Taj. And I gotta say, there is this one kind of small part where they're talking to this couple. They're like, yeah, at the beginning of the movie, we weren't shit, but now at this part of the movie, now we shit. I mean, now we're the shit. Not now that we shit. Whatever. You know what I mean? Now we're the shit. And so Wong hits him with a shim. He does the magic shim. There's something so satisfying. I don't know if it's like an ASMR thing, but when I hear that Doctor Strange opening up the time warp thing when he's going in, he's like shh. It just sounds like a fresh one. I got to be honest. In the mid-credit scene, Wong introduces Shang-Chi and Katie to Bruce Banner and Carol Danvers while researching the ring's origin. They discover that the rings are acting as a beacon to something. In a post-credit scene, Xialing becomes the new leader of the 10 Rings, training women alongside men, despite telling Shang-Chi that she was going to disband the organization. We knew she wasn't going to do all that. We knew what she was going to do. We knew. I was like, Lee, you can't hang us. You cannot leave us, Lee. Lee, you think you playing us? I don't know why Chris Tucker came out at the end, but it's a classic. Anyways, we're not going to do that on the outro. But anyways, that is 2021's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Thank you for listening, watching LuckyDog Podcast. We could not do this podcast without you. Let me know how I can improve on the podcast. Let me know what you thought about the podcast, the review, the movie, all of those good things. Thumbs up, straight up your ass. No, I'm just kidding, not up your ass, but thumbs up and then subscribe, follow. We're on Twitch. We have Aftercast, Livecast, Podcast, all the casts, and all that good stuff. Reviews, everything coming down the pipe. Be sure to check out LuckyDogPodcast.com. You can get early reviews. You can be listening to this review early as hell. This could come out days before, weeks before. We don't know. It all depends about how it comes down the pipe. I don't always determine what's coming down the pipe now, but let's just say if you're a Patreon member, you'll be getting it first. So thank you for listening, watching LuckyDog Podcast. Take it easy.